Well, a sense of what's really going on is an agency that has been the unfortunate whipping post for members of Congress, the media, the unions, and everybody. When they just don't like something or something goes wrong, they're quick to blame. And then when they offer solutions, they don't actually follow through on those solutions, or they just simply throw money and people at it, not really concerned if it actually is effective. I just have this sort of maybe simple mindset that, if you're actually spending billions of dollars and employing hundreds of thousands of people, and your goal is to service veterans in their health care and their benefits, then maybe that should be the goal. I know that may sound sort of strange here in Washington, D.C., but throughout the country, people understand you're supposed to do what your organization is designed to do. And for VA, it's helping our veterans, and that's what we're going to do. But when you got vested interest to keep the thing the same, when somebody comes along to actually make real changes, then they're going to scream a little bit, and that's what we're seeing.
President Trump made great strides in his first term at the VA. I always felt that it was one of the stories that didn't get enough attention because they were real serious reforms. How will the reforms that you're working on build on that success and be a benefit to our nation's warfighters?
Well, the great part about it is we get to go back to some of those that basically the previous administration in the last 4 years ignored, and that's the Mission Act, and looking at how we can actually combine the resources of the VA, which has some amazing programs, especially in catastrophic care, paralysis, disability issues with prosthetics, but also blind and complex issues, along with our basic patient care, and also give the veteran the choice to get some of that care in the community as well, where they're close to home and maybe the drive is not as long or maybe the wait times are shorter. So we're going to be actually giving the veterans more choices in their health care. We're going to be putting more resources toward the health care they currently have. Actually like getting doctors out from behind desk and pushing paper and actually going to a patient and actually being a clinician again. I think that's sort of where the veterans in this country need to be put first. So we're going to be looking at how we spend our money and how many people we have, and we say, are they allowing us to put the target inside, and that is working with our veterans. And that just hasn't been going on here in the last little bit, and it's really amazing to see what we've done. I mean, we've cut contracts and everything else.
Yeah, I want to ask you about that, Mr. Secretary, because, whenever you come into a new administration, particularly when the parties change, someone in your position spends a lot of time on the front end turning over rocks. What did you find that was left behind by the Biden administration that Americans should know about?
Ooh, this is a family show. It'd be a little bit hard to get into some of that. It's just so frustratingly ugly in the sense of basically it seems what we had is not putting the patient, what we'll call the veteran, first, and finding ways to build up the agency itself. And a lot of that was not the frontline folks. We have some of the best in the world out here at work for the VA, but unfortunately the supervisory levels and some of the, even up here to as far as the central office, so to speak, we're giving out directions that were designed to build up the VA, to build up, to the programs, and not really concerned if it was actually helping the veteran himself. So when we look at it, we were too focused around here on DEI, in which we were dividing our veterans and dividing our workforce. So we did away with that, put that $14 million back into patient care. We're no longer looking to have do services that change someone's sex. We're not going to do that. That gender dysphoria stuff is over. If you're receiving hormone treatments at the VA, you'll continue to get that. But we're going back to putting that money toward disabled veterans and prosthetics. We've done stuff like actually say we're going to actually fly the American flag and the POW flag here. Because we believe, and as someone who served for 23 years, we need things that unify us instead of divide us. And what we found a lot of was division instead of helping the veteran.
Yeah, and I remember when they took President Lincoln's quote, which was the motto of the agency, and they rewrote it for DEI and inclusivity and equity purposes a couple of years ago, and I remember the outrage over that. According to the House Veterans Affairs Committee Chairman Mike Bost, the agency lied in order to acquire $3 billion in emergency taxpayer funds. How is the department dealing with that particular issue?
Well, we're actually bringing accounting back to accounting, and accountants to the accounting known to get the numbers right. And I think that's just what was really concerning, because if you go back and look at what that IG report actually said, and you looked at what Chairman Boss is talking about, they came to the Congress late last year, right before the shutdown at the end of September, and before the month before, and said, "Oh, we need X amount of dollars because we don't have enough to service these veteran claims, and veterans will be left out." I think it is highly ironic that they would choose to serve veterans at that point. But what they were trying to do was get more money. And the end of the day was they didn't need the money because they wasn't keeping up with their actuarial reports and things going forward, so they could actually tell Congress what they really had. So this is the thing we're trying to clean up. And I promise Congress, I promise the senators and the House members, we're not going to send people to the Hill to give you numbers that I can't back up. We'll ask for an extra day or two to make sure we have our numbers right before we come to you. But this is the kind of games that were played, and we're just not going to play the games anymore, because I work for the veteran. I work for President Trump, who said he was going to take care of our veterans and transform government, and that's what we're going to do.
Exit question for you, Mr. Secretary, but perhaps the most important one. The federal government does a lot of things that it was never intended to do, but caring for our nation's veterans is one of its primary responsibilities, I'm sure you would agree. The challenge of veteran suicides, homelessness, and transition into civil life continue to persist. What is your vision for at last trying to cut into those statistics?
Well, it's pretty simple. What we're doing right now doesn't really seem to be working. We've dropped homelessness a little bit. We still have 40,000 veterans at any one moment in this country who do not have adequate housing or no housing at all. We have the suicide rate of 17 veterans to 20 veterans, depending on what number you want to have, even higher possibly, of dying death by suicide every day. And here's what's happened. We spent literally billions of dollars on those programs in the last 6 years to see no movement. So what I'm coming into is I think, as we look at it from the administration's perspective, the president's perspective, we want to spend as much money as possible to get it down to zero. We don't want a veteran to ever be out there to not have shelter, or a veteran who is hurting right now to think that that taking their life or death by suicide is an option. In fact, if you would allow me just a second, if there's anybody watching this, or
Sure.
somebody that's suffering, they're hurting, dial 988, and press 1. 24/7, 365, they'll have someone that can help them actually talk them through that. And as somebody who's, as a chaplain in the Air Force, I've actually been on the line with people. I've actually talked to them. I've been on base with them. And that is such the power of a person being there. Just please know that we're going to do everything we can to make sure that every veteran feels wanted, every veteran feels cared for, that they don't come to that point in their time where they want to take their life.
That's right. All right, well, we're going to be following your progress, Mr. Secretary. Our nation's Secretary of Veterans Affairs, Doug Collins. Thank you for your service, sir, and for being with us.
Thanks much. Good to be with you.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.